Hey folks, Farmer Joe here, coming at you fresh from the farm store. So today we're going to talk about something a little different than usual. Usually I'm talking about farming and vegetables. Today I'm going to talk about protein and protein intake for people, humans. And so why is protein important? Well, protein is important because it's one of the macronutrients which is required for you to basically to grow muscle, to synthesize muscle, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I don't have off the top of my head because I'm not a nutritionist. But look it up online. Why is protein good for you? I know that, like, I had a friend who broke her arm and it wasn't healing, and I ended up just doing a bit of Google search, and it was like, oh, protein intake important for healing bones. And her doctor hadn't even asked her anything about her diet. She's a middle-aged woman who went vegan, but maybe wasn't quite getting enough protein in her diet, and so it'd been 5 weeks, the bone still wasn't healing at all, and so I was like, well, that's weird. Like, think about protein. And I know my mom, as she gets older, it's important about like bone density and muscle mass and maintaining muscle mass. One of the interesting things that I heard recently on a podcast, the Tim Ferriss show with Dr. Peter Attia as the guest, was talking about that lean muscle mass is the #1 positive indicator for good health later in life. Having more muscle going into later life means less neurodegenerative disease, better overall health, better aging, longer health span, because we all are familiar with this term lifespan, which is how long you live, but as many of us know, the later part of life isn't always the best. And so we're really talking about health span, the number of healthy, thriving, vibrant years that we have in our life, and how do we optimize health span even going into later, because I'm getting old, and it's important. I'm almost 40. No, I'm messing with you here. I am almost 40, but anyway, so today what we're really talking about is protein, making sure you get enough protein in your diet. So in the blog this week and in the newsletter this week, there's going to be a chart linking to like another website where I found like a nice guide with like pictures of like what does one serving of protein looks like. And now one of the things is that the amount of protein that each person needs is actually not. The government, the people who issue like the nutritional recommendations, you'll notice, for instance, on the Canada Food Guide website, they have this whole section about how to eat more protein, but nowhere do they say how much protein do you need. I found the BC Ministry of Health had a number listed as 0.8 grams per kilogram of body fat, and I know this anyway. This is something I like talking about, so I'll talk about it, and hopefully some of you enjoy this too. So just to give you an idea of like in terms of like servings, right? So like one beef patty, like here we've got some beef patties. One beef patty will give you about 16 grams of protein, right? And so if we're talking about like this like really minimal number of 0.8 grams per kilogram, that would mean someone who's like 125 pounds would need about 45 grams of protein, so about 4 beef patties per day, the equivalent of. Someone who's 150 grams would need 55 grams. Someone who weighs 150 pounds would need 55 grams, and someone who would be 200 pounds would need 75 grams. But I recommend you go on the internet, do a little searching. There's like online calculators where you can calculate this stuff. If you're really a nerd and you love this stuff, you can be using an app to track what you eat, and then exactly like how much protein you're getting per day and all that kind of stuff. But it's really not required. I just wanted to bring some more awareness, and also to say that all these products are going to be on special next week for CSA members, so 10% off. The theme of the week next week is protein, so CSA members, get your protein. So where do we get protein? Well, basically we get protein from animal sources, and we get them from plant sources. And so animal sources include like meat. Like I said, a patty of meat, 16 grams of protein. Like a large chicken breast will give you 32 grams of protein. Other animal products that include protein, like cottage cheese, is actually quite high. Like a half a cup will give you 15 grams. So half a cup of cottage cheese gives you as much protein as a patty of patty, which gives you the same amount as one cup of cooked lentils or chickpeas or pinto beans. So that's all about 15, 16, 17 grams of protein for a cup of cooked beans. Same as one patty, same as half a cup of cottage cheese. Now, these numbers that are listed online are really low compared to what I've been seeing in the body, like the fitness and like longevity world. In the fitness and like longevity world, the people who want to be like doing push-ups when they're 95, those people are talking about 1 gram per pound of body weight. So these conservative estimates would have someone who's almost 200 pounds like me needing 75 grams, but the bodybuilder people and the longevity people, it's not just about looking good for the bodybuilding competition, it's about maintaining that muscle mass later into life. They would be saying I need almost 200 grams of protein, which is a lot. Like, it is such a thing. You can have too much protein in your diet. So if there's something that interests you, it's worth looking up. It's worth looking into a keto diet. It's worth thinking about, or researching anyway. And so they say it really takes about a meal. If you want to get if you're working out and you want to get at least 30 grams of protein per meal. So that would be like the equivalent of like a cup of beans and a serving of cottage cheese, or et cetera, et cetera. So those are some of the animal sources. Eggs also have protein. Let's see, they're strange, surprisingly low. I've always been surprised how little. 2 eggs, 13 grams. So once again, 2 eggs, roughly as much as a patty, roughly as much as a half a cup of cottage cheese. Then you can also get protein powders. So on the animal side, you got whey protein. So whey is the liquid that happens when you make cheese. The solids go and become cheese, and the liquid is called whey, and the liquid is very high in protein once you condense it into a powder. It's very low, it's mostly water, but they evaporate all the water off and they get a concentrated whey protein powder. And so for instance, in a 30 gram serving, like 1 scoop, here you're getting 23 grams of protein, so quite a good option. There's also vegan options at Costco. They've got a great vegan one that we use at home. So now we're talking about, so these are the animal sources. We've got cheese, eggs, cottage cheese, meat, fish. All these are nice sources. This is kefir. And so here you're going to get only 6 grams of protein for a 3/4 cup. But all this adds up, because it's not about like, oh, I gotta eat like 4 chicken breasts for breakfast. No, it adds up over the course of a day. It's thinking about how can you tweak your diet. It's not about making radical changes that don't last. It's about making small changes that are sustainable for you and your lifestyle and your eating habits and your family, right? So it's just about looking where we can slip in a little more protein in our day so that we make sure that we're hitting those numbers. If you want to have a plant source of protein, really the highest source of protein for plant-based eating is soy. So soybeans are the highest protein beans, and they are made into tofu. So tofu, like a 1/5 of a package would get you, once again, about 15 grams, like a cup of beans cooked, or like a serving of cottage cheese. So tofu is great. Tofu is made with soybeans. They grind it up, they make a paste, they drain off the liquid, and they press the solids into a block. That's tofu. One of the concerns with tofu and with soybeans in general is that soybeans have quite high levels of phytoestrogens. So phyto means plant, and so these are estrogen, this is estrogen from the plant source. And so some people are concerned that if you eat a lot of soy in your diet, you're getting a lot of phytoestrogens, and that's going to mess up your endocrine system. That's going to mess up your hormones, and watch out, don't eat too much soy. So I don't have necessarily a firm opinion on that, but if you're concerned about that, tempeh is a great option. Because tempeh is made from soybeans, but they're fermented. So I made tempeh once in my life. It's really fun to make. It's basically, the mold that they put on a brie cheese to make that white surface, the white crust on a brie cheese? Well, it's very similar. It's a mold, it's a fungus that they inoculate the soybeans with, and it colonizes the soybeans and apparently neutralizes some of those phytoestrogens and makes the proteins more available. And one of the interesting things that I've read is apparently in most traditional Asian cultures, soy is generally eaten in a fermented format. So like, for instance, miso is fermented soybeans. Very rarely are soybeans eaten in their raw state. So that's talking about tempeh. We got these tempeh burgers too, which are fantastic. Sometimes veggie burgers, they tend to be a little flaky and fall apart in your burger, but these hold their form really great. And I mean, this is an 80 gram patty, and in 100 grams you got 24. So you got about 20 grams of protein per patty, which is actually higher than the beef patties. That's quite amazing. Now, I want to talk about veggie burgers. Veggie burgers are not a source of protein unless they're like a tempeh burger or a soy-based burger. For instance, this one here is delicious. I love it. But in one patty, you've got 4 grams of protein. That's sure, that's fine, that's good, but it's like eating a potato. You get some protein from potatoes too. It's just, if you're looking to add a lot of protein, you get less protein in a veggie burger like this than in 3/4 of a cup of kefir or of yogurt. So anyway, I hope I haven't totally overwhelmed you with this. I'd be curious to know what you think about all this. If you have experiences you want to share with us, head on over to social media or shoot us an email. We'd love to meet you in person one day. So come on by the farm store and we can talk about this in person. All right, folks. I'm Farmer Joe. I'll catch you later, and make sure you get your protein.